What if I told you there was a simpler way to podcast and you're listening to the format right now? Welcome to Podcast Workflows, where you get daily tips to improve your process, grow your show, and maybe even make some money. Each week, I also do a daily dive into the process of the world's most successful podcasters and reveal their tools, processes, and systems to help you simplify the production of your own show and reclaim hours in your day. You can improve your own podcast production process by seeing how the pros do it. I'm your host, Joe Casabona, and today we're going to talk about a format by many names: solo cast, mini podcast, micro podcast, but we're really talking about one thing: the short form solo show. Something that turns a lot of people away from podcasting, both before and after starting, is how much time and work it takes. In a previous episode, I gave you some tips for how to reduce the amount of time. And if you took all of those tips together, you would have come to the same conclusion that I'm telling you today, that you don't need long interview shows. In fact, we're seeing an increasing amount of a new type of podcast that's gaining popularity: the mini podcast. Some people will call it a solo cast, but I'm going to call it the mini podcast. And here's why starting a mini podcast or pivoting your current show in that direction might be a good idea. They are usually less than 20 minutes long. This one is usually less than 5 minutes long. They are generally solo shows, so there's no coordinating guests. They allow you to showcase your expertise, and they are easier to batch. All of that means that you can take a podcast process that maybe takes you hours on end to plan, from research to booking guests to so much more, editing, especially when the guest's audio isn't very good, and distill it into a much simpler format. The mini podcast is gaining popularity because of the fact that it's simpler. And notice I said simple, not easy. Podcasting is generally not easy, but mini podcasts are less daunting for the host, and so they can prevent the dreaded pod fade. If you have a sharp mission statement with laser-focused topics, especially on a subject where you are already a subject matter expert, then production could be a lot easier. And again, this allows you to showcase your expertise. What that means is you're able to leverage the last S and the H in my SMASH framework: selling and helping. So a mini podcast can really tick all the boxes for you if you find that doing those longer, higher production shows are just not in your time budget for the foreseeable future. That's it for this episode. I will link in the show notes to an article, a longer form article I wrote about mini podcasting and why I think it's probably good for you, especially if you're a solopreneur or a freelancer. And I want to know what you thought about this. Are you thinking about maybe starting a mini podcast? Let me know. I'm at J Casabona on X, formerly Twitter, and other Twitter-like social networks. If you're on LinkedIn, you can find me. I'm Joe Casabona. And until next time, I can't wait to see what you make.